Welcome back to part 7 of this egg sculpting creature thing. We are almost done sculpting this. So we're going to refine the edges and then refine some of these cracked sections as well as the transitions. Like this transition looks kind of weird. So we have to figure out, so what is this in-between thing going to be, right? Like, is this just going to be shell? Is this going to be some kind of weird material that blends in? That's still to be determined, but for now, we'll just hit BFA for flatten. And we're just going to go ahead and flatten. Like you can see here, this sticks out. We're going to try to refine these edges a little bit more, so they're even more crisp. So you can see there, just kind of pushing in some of this. Just to get a nice clean edge, and then we can reduce the size to get this little section here pushed in. So now that's a lot cleaner from how it started. And we'll do the same over here. Just flatten with a kind of relatively small brush. And then you can make it bigger when you're in the middle. So when you're near the edges, you should reduce the size. So same thing for these edges. So if we want to refine this just slightly, this like point, we can do that. But you should do so with a smaller brush. Now it's like nice and sharp. So it gets rid of some of like the blobbiness of the model. Because the parts that are sharp, we want to be sharp, right? Like we want them sharp. We don't want them to be appearing blobby. So I'm just refining this one now. Now one thing we should do here, I think, is to take the move brush, BMV, and push parts of this in. Because right now, it's kind of like angled out. So we can kind of slowly push it in. Slowly but surely. And pull parts of this out slightly. So now that pushes in a little bit. Alright, and then back to BFA. Just flatten out this stuff here. Increase the brush size slightly for this larger section. Flatten out some of this. It's getting it a little bit more refined. I'll do the entire top and then we can actually look at the bottom as comparison. So we'll kind of stay zoomed in on the top so you can't really see the bottom too much and just focus on the top. And then we'll actually see the difference. Because it's important to like actually understand like what the effect of your sculpting has on the model. So I think that could be useful. Kind of like compare and contrast what it looks like when we leave it blobby versus when we refine the edge. I'm gonna blur that a little bit because I don't want like those details. And be careful not to get too close to the part where it pinches in, because you actually might start sculpting away those details. You can adjust the angle so you can see how much you're actually taking away. So BFA for flatten. That's the keyboard shortcut. I'm going to hit BDS really quick. I'm going to draw detail there. And then go back to BFA. Just kind of add some as I go. You basically will get like an intimate knowledge or intimate understanding of like the shape of your model. Because you work, like, especially if you work on it like this, like, you're just zoomed into every little section. I think we're almost done. Yeah, we're past the halfway point for the top. The other upside of doing this is it gets us nice sharp edges, as you can see there, so it doesn't look like blobby. Because that's one of the things that tends to happen when sculpting, is things tend to look blobby. Or maybe that's just when I sculpt. No, I think it's normal for that to happen. I hope. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. No, it is normal. Like, it's definitely a thing. Okay, we're almost... Actually, we're back. Alright, so let's compare the top to the bottom. So the bottom overall, it's not as bad as the top. Like, we're still gonna do this, but it's not gonna be... I don't think there's as much to hit. It seemed like the top was more so the serious offender, but we'll still flatten parts of the bottom to get those nice edges. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. I'm going to actually smooth that. Okay, it's looking a little bit sharper. Some of these parts actually look okay. We'll still refine them though, just because there's still parts that stick out. And that'll show through in your bake and everything, so precision is usually a good thing. But not always. Alright, it's starting to get nice and sharp. Like you would expect a cracked eggshell to be. Well, this is like stylized, but a stylized, cartoony cracked eggshell. You would expect some degree of sharpness on that bad boy. Alright, then let's hit up this. Alright, I think we're back to where we started. Meaning we rotated around the model. So we refined the edges on that quite a bit. Now to finish up, we need to refine this stuff so that it actually kind of just doesn't do this. Because right now it just kind of goes off into nothing. So we have to give this either... Now, if we have everything line up, it's going to look stupid. So I wouldn't do that. I'm going to have this kind of trail off into like some little parts. Then blend it in a little bit. Using smooth, which is just shift. Same thing for this one. Make sure you hold down Alt to take away material, because we're trying to have these cracks end up somewhere and have it look okay. Another thing you can do to like blend them is just kind of like sculpt in some stuff like this and then just like smooth that out. So it looks like there's like a subtle plane change. So like I'm holding an Alt and then I smooth it out. So it kind of looks like it disappears into some kind of form instead of just ending somewhere. So I'm holding an Alt, I'm just like sculpting these together, and then I'm just gonna blur. You can blur in circles too, like this. Just gonna give you some more control. Or smooth in circles, I'm sorry. So now it's kind of ending up in like a different area, and then we'll do the same thing for this over here. Holding an Alt. Blurring in circles, smoothing in circles along the edges. Sculpt in a little bit, make some like little unique ridges. So then it kind of ends up somewhere, but it doesn't end up just like connected weirdly. And we have to do the same thing for the bottom. So for like these ones, trying to create like a nice little place for these details to live. If that makes sense. Alright, we gotta get these ones. So this is wrist sculpting. I'll do a video on the different types because it's useful to know. Like when you should do one versus the other. So actually I'm building up a little bit down here, just so when I blend this all, when I smooth it all out, it has like some more variety, so it's not all the same shapes. It's kind of like blending into something. All right, and then this is a serious offender. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's start sculpting in, holding down Alt. Some of these little areas here for variety, because if all the cracks look the same, that's weird. And if the depth of the cracks is the same, like these wide cartoony cracks, that's also strange, in my opinion. Get some up here. Try not to go into those details unless you want to for like a specific reason. Should probably try to retain those because we spent the time to sculpt them. Unless you want to break up the shape a little bit more, I would try to retain them. So now we're just adding details to the spaces between the cracks, some more form changes. Nothing crazy. Dynamesh. All right, I think we're pretty close. Just looking for little areas. So one thing you could do now that you have all this detail is you could go in and start refining the face. That is something we could do. So if you wanna, whoops, I don't know what I just did there. So I hit like space. I think I increased my brush size. You can hold in space. That does bring up this dialogue, lets you change some things. So something to note. So you can hold in space and like increase and decrease brush size, and also the focal shift. I'll go over that in a future video. But you can start to sculpt in some asymmetrical details. Oh. Now that we have more resolution. Getting details like this to line up correctly is very difficult to do. Like continuing a line takes some practice and some getting used to. Like if you have a line that's like half started, continuing it can be difficult. So you have to kind of like ease into it. All right, we're almost there. Just gonna hit up a few more areas of the face pretty quickly. Sculpting in with the damn standard brush. Another thing you can do is you can sculpt in, like you don't have to sculpt in lines, you can sculpt in like little tick marks. So I think a good place to do that would be like maybe here. You do something like that and then blend it slightly. It's gonna get this like pinched effect. Or even if you're just like really deliberate with your strokes, you can kind of get some details in there like that. I'm going to BCB parts of this really quick. Another thing you can do is you can build up form to get in micro detail. So like if you want some stuff to show through in your bake, like this will now show through on the model. So what you can do is build up some form like this. And try to use the fall off, like releasing the brush or the stylus gradually, like starting off hard and then releasing type of thing to like blend in new form. And then you can also add in a few like alt strokes to like push it in a little bit in some parts for variety. To like break it up. Just be careful you don't snag something you don't want to. Alright, so now we have this like brow ridge thing going on. It's got some more detail. And I think that's good for now. We can always add more detail, but I think this is a good result. We'll continue with this in the next one. We'll decimate it, Z-remesh it, and then UV it, and then that'll turn into the Substance Painter tutorial series where I'll go over like the basics. First I'll do the basics of Substance Painter, and then I will add the process, or like some of the steps you can use to paint some things. So yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful or enjoyed this. Drop a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.